Hello and welcome to Springboard, your virtual university. My name is Ocran, welcoming you on behalf of Team Springboard led by Comfort. This is your most inspirational show and the place where the greatest minds in the world converge. Springboard is brought to you by the Springboard Ratio Foundation and proudly sponsored by MTN Pulse Just Be, the Enterprise Group Enterprise Advantage, UMB Bank, celebrating 50 years in banking and Central University, Ghana's premier private Christian university. Our partners in the media, the multimedia group, and the graphic business. Today is very special here on your virtual university because we do what we call the legends of our time. People who have spent their whole lives devoted to God and country in a specific field of endeavor. And my guest for tonight or for today is more than qualified. Fellow of the Royal College of Physicians in the UK, Fellow of the West African College of Physicians, Fellow of the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons, and for 21 years at the Accra Psychiatric Hospital, out of which 19 was spent as the chief psychiatrist. He was the vice president of the West African College of Physicians and the former board chairperson of the Mental Health Authority. Let me throw in two more. Elected as to the International Narcotic Control Board and also as a temporary advisor to the government of Eritrea by the WHO. Prof. Joseph Bediako Asare. Good to see you at Springboard.
Nice to see you too.
Charlie, I was trying to read your profile. It was almost like a dictionary. How do you feel? You're almost 80 now?
Yes, sir.
How do you feel when you look back at your life?
Oh, I feel really fulfilled. It's just that a lot could have been done if I had enough support from my colleagues, if you had more psychiatrists at the time that I was working. I'm sure more ideas would have pushed me to do more than I was able to do.
Right. For people like you who are pioneers, it's always that feeling because at the time you are talking, the foundations you laid are being built on by others and many more things are happening.
Yes.
But I want to go back to you've written a recent book on the history of mental health in Ghana. Yes. I'm looking forward to that book being published because today we'll try and
publish.
I'm looking forward to getting a copy to read because what we want to do today is delve a bit into the journey.
Okay.
To get an understanding of how far we've come. And I'm talking against the backdrop of having been at the recent WHO program that focused on launching an initiative on mental health in Ghana. So you've been a pioneer in this field, and several years ago, if somebody was misbehaving, they would tell the person, if you do, I'll take you to Dr. Asare. It's almost like your name was symptomatic with everything mental health.
That's right.
Looking back at where you started from, even from your time at the Accra Psychiatric Hospital and now, how far have we come on this journey?
Oh, really, the time I came, psychiatry was at the lowest ebb. By God's grace, I was recruited from UK. I was one of 4 doctors sent originally to Australia, but to specialize in psychiatry, and then come and man Panther Hospital, which was then being built. Unfortunately, after 1 year, there was a change of government in Australia, so the scholarship that you went with was almost removed. So I had to find ways and means of surviving, and therefore I had to go to Britain, where I had worked before, so I could join the training program, psychiatric training.
You were in the UK, you went to Australia.
I was in Australia. When I finished as a medical officer, I worked in the UK for a year.
Okay.
And then came to Ghana to work for 3 years before I had scholarship for Australia.
Okay.
And the scholarship was such that they called it home-sponsored scheme, where the salary that I had, or we had to be converted into dollars. And there was a problem after the government of Australia was changed. So things weren't moving the way we wanted, and I thought it would be better for me to go to Britain and compete. So I went to Britain and joined the Leicestershire training scheme, which in 1977 I completed. 1980, I did 2 years as a senior registrar, and then 3 months local consultant psychiatrist before I was recruited to Ghana to man the Accra Psychiatric Hospital. When I came, unfortunately, there was nobody. The psychiatrist who was there had resigned, or he had given up his position as the head of the hospital. So happily, I was rolled in as the specialist in charge of Accra Psychiatric Hospital. In fact, the time I came, 1983, were in the early days of the revolution. So there were a lot of problems. There was Nigerian people went to Nigeria, and they were brought in. Some had all kinds of problems. We were unable to feed our patients well. Some were dying at that time. The population of the hospital was about 2,000, and they were dying out of
patients.
They were dying out of malnutrition, infections, and all that. And apart from that, the whole place was so the sanitation and everything was so bad that we had to dwell on improving the sanitation and also inviting people to come into the hospital and help us. Luckily, the head of state then, Chairman Lawrence, came and visited the hospital at the early weeks of being made head of the hospital. And he, by God's grace, took interest in psychiatry. So he asked me to chair the committee to advise the government on how to improve on mental health care. So then we wrote a report which we suggested that we should rather go more into the community, train more people in psychiatry, and also improve on the standard of living of the patients, increase the funding for the man in the place, and also Pantan was to be completed.
At the time you came, was the Accra Psychiatric Hospital located where it is right now in Asylum Down?
Oh yes, that's
right
where it was. That's where it was. So we had to, by that time too, there was no psychiatry mental health representation at the headquarters level. So after our report that we wrote, we requested that somebody should be at the headquarters level, and that's where I was. And so they asked me after the report, I was invited to head the unit. But I stayed and worked because we were not many. So whilst working as administrator and clinician, I was also looking at the 3 psychiatric hospitals.
Administrator, clinician,
and then
specialist psychiatrist, right. And then committee chairman.
That's right.
You're doing everything.
Well, yes. So luckily, through that effort, mental health was brought in line with the teaching hospitals. So we enjoyed the privileges of being regarded as a teaching hospital. And by so doing, financing of that sector, we got involved. Before then, the regional directors were in charge of the mental health institutions. So you were there, and they will come and say, what do you want? They go and buy brooms, cutlasses, and other things for you, which may not be what you wanted. And then I did an exercise. They gave me some money, and I was able to have a model ward. Now they call it a female ward, a female acute, which was adopted by HOPSA, the Holy Child Path Students Association. It became a model ward where you had, lockers, the bathrooms, everything modernized. We got some donation of beds from somewhere, very new beds. And foolishly enough, I thought I just wanted to let people know how things could be done. Because let's face it, when our wives and sisters become mentally ill, Where do you send them? They all come there. And we have to make sure that as they come there, they are treated as human beings. But lo and behold, when I brought the cameras in to showcase what I've done, or what we have done, I was called to the headquarters Ministry of Health. They said I was mad.
Oh,
no,
why?
No wonder you are a psychiatrist. The beds that you have there, do you have someone calling? How do you bring beds of this nature for mentally ill people to sleep on?
Let me help to educate.
Yeah.
Anytime we talk about mental health, I find that there is an almost, I wouldn't even call it unspoken, it's very clearly articulated.
Yes.
Expectation that mental patients should be given, as it were, the worst part
That's
of
right.
the stick.
That's right.
For somebody whose whole life has been mental health, delivery, mental health care delivery, do you feel that we disrespect the sector, or we do not understand the whole of mental health care?
Yes, my brother.
Help us to understand. Sir.
Yes. Most Ghanaians don't understand mental health. You see, mental health is about being happy, enjoying life, relating with people, and feeling useful to society. So they have an element of positive emotional experiences, and also being able to do something to help humanity. The other aspect of it is accepting the way you are, whether you are tall, short, big, or fat. If you accept the way you've been created, that's all. Anytime you say, oh, I wish I was like Reverend Albert Ocran, that means I'm lacking something.
So are you saying it's lack of self-acceptance, lack of confidence,
lack of that's right.
Are these the triggers that lead to mental health illnesses?
When you are in that state, it means that there's something lacking, which can trigger, because you lack your self-esteem and other things can happen to you. You see? So when you talk about mental health in Ghana, mostly is a negative aspect of mental health, mental illness, mental disorder. And the origins, what people think are the causation of mental illness among most of our people, however educated, will be spiritual or something like a curse.
You think that most people who have a negative outlook on mental health assume that anyone suffering from mental health has either got a spiritual issue as a curse?
Yes.
Where does that originate from?
Well, folklore. That's what people have heard, translated from our own culture, and that the person who is mentally ill might have done something wrong to be in that state. He either stole somebody, or his ancestors did something that has made him become so. So people don't really have any heart for people who suffer from mental. They think they are people who are cursed. They have done something wrong, or if they haven't, the ancestors must have done something wrong, and therefore the stigma comes in. And when the stigma comes in, you are discriminated upon, to the extent that those of us even working in the field of mental health, sometimes they say we are mad. Look at what they were telling me, that no more I'm a psychiatrist. How could I provide such facilities for the mentally ill? See?
Did you get offended by some of those references? Because it was quite common.
Yes. I know, because I knew that they were doing that out of ignorance and lack of awareness, which we tried to create at that time. There was one other thing. When I came, they brought in cash and carry, which meant that our patients will have to pay for their care. And now, in fact, I feel bad for, in the 80s, bringing that aspect of free mental health care. I went to the meeting and told them that My people have no money. If you want to charge them, they will not come. And you see more of them on the streets. And the families will also suffer. So they upheld my thoughts. And therefore we had free mental care for all the patients. They were not paying anything. They just came, deposited something for, in case you didn't have transport, you paid and went back. And over the years, that has affected us in the sense that even the law that we created, we made a provision there that mental health care is free.
Well, that is a good thing, say.
It was good, but then when national insurance came, we said, "Oh, you are already covered. Your treatment is free, so don't come to national insurance for any money. Government should take care of you." And of course, government doesn't have enough money to do this. Then one aspect was when I came in, I had a call from, I had a letter from WHO that for a long time they hadn't heard about Ghana. So is it possible to visit us? One Dr. Smith came, and then that's how we got a link with mental health with WHO. And then my main idea was, because weren't many, I was trying to get people trained in psychiatry, and this became a problem. And the second issue was the community health care. We have nurses who were manning most of the clinics, but then we needed people that we could train as community psychiatry nurses. So we got a team to provide curriculum for them for 6 weeks. We gave them theoretical training on mental health, management of mental health, and then social welfare aspect. And then they had 2 weeks of practicals, joining with others in the community to see how they could manage the cases. So within a few years, we had trained CP, community psychiatric nurses, in all the regions and most of the districts. Before then, we had 3 people sent abroad to do community psychiatry. They came back, and they were the people we used in Ashanti, Accra, and Volta region to manage the CP.
Growing up in Takoradi, we used to have a lot of mental health patients,
yes,
at the extreme end of it, of course, roaming the streets, and it was almost a common sight to see them all over the place. And at that time, there was not even the way a mental health care facility would be referred to was almost like a place for the mad.
yes.
Fast track 50 years or 40 years from those times, the landscape has changed considerably. You are seeing that it's a result of deliberate interventions. You mentioned the time you were at you came down from the UK to the psychiatric hospital.
That's right.
And the visit by former Chairman Rawlings.
Yes.
The formation of the committee,
That's
the
right.
building of a model ward,
That's right.
for which you were described as being mad, of course, and then changes made to the healthcare system. You mentioned the introduction of free health care for
the mentally
ill,
That's right.
and how that was, on one side, a blessing, but on another side, a challenge because of the funding.
That's right.
Today, we have a very well-established mental health authority. We have relatively well-resourced mental hospitals. We have all regional hospitals having a mental health care unit.
That's right.
When you look back at these developments, how does it make you feel?
Oh, I feel very good. Because as a board chairman who actually started implementing the Mental Health Act, we were able to do a lot by creating our committees in all the 5 regions. We inaugurated them and were functioning. The problem is that there are certain aspects of the law which has not been taken care of. And that is causing a lot of problems to the mental health authority. One is the funding. We were able to create the mental health fund, but the money that should go into it is not coming. Before I left, we had seen the Minister of Health. We had a small committee. We're trying to find out where they can take money to support mental health. And if that had been done, mental health would have, actually the essence of having the mental health authority was to be an authority that will hire and fire and will manage all psychiatric issues in the country, including payment and recruiting and all that. But as now, it's more like parasiting with Ghana Health Service. And they gave us small money. And donors, when we started DFID, they were the ones, actually, without them, the authorities would have been stillborn. They gave us a lot of money to a extent that they said, hey, we are not government. we are an NGO. We can do a bit, but then your government should come in. But there has been lip service to mental. We ask them, what's your priority? It's mental health. And now I'm beginning to feel a bit worried because we had a policy that any new hospital or any, particularly in the region and district, any new facility that should be built, we should have some wards for mental health. That has not been followed to the letter. In fact, some of the regional hospitals, Oforidua, Sunyani, and Konfanoche were able to do that. But Nawa also, and Boga, they now have. But there are other places where the mental health presence is not well established. We said it should be 10 to 20 beds. Volta region, yes, we have a mental health unit over there. And then the problem was how to manage those facilities. So with the college, West African College of Physicians, with some friends of mine from the college, senior members, were able to establish a diploma. Well, I thought that would be a shortest way. At one time, I published that if Ghana was not careful, by the year 2000, they would have to import psychiatrists to Ghana, and that would be a lot costly to us. So we tried training. I went around all the regions to woo doctors to come and do psychiatry for the diploma, 1-year diploma. We established it in Nigeria. We started in Benin City, and then we came to Ile-Ife, combined Ankafo and Ile-Ife to train our people. But the Nigerians, later on, they lost interest in it, and we were doing it until the time when, by the government's own behavior, we have to stop the training.
Would you say that the human resource side of things is the part where we have made the most progress in mental health care?
Now, I would say so. But at that time, how many were the psychiatrists not more than 7. Some had retired. It got to a stage when we were about 15, 16, including the retirees and all. And so the diplomats, we were able to train about 10 of them. Some of them had to come to the psychiatric hospitals and work. And then we then had to find ways of getting more psychiatrists into the system. Most psychiatrists will want to go away. In fact, there was one professor of psychiatry at Texan, Professor Texan, who trained in Ireland. So he was able to get about 8 or so doctors who were training here to go and specialize in Belfast. How many came? Why 2 now? 1 came and went away. There's 1 now at Konfanoche. All the others are no more.
You say they're no more. They moved out of psychiatry or they moved out of Ghana?
They moved out of Ghana.
Why?
Well, the NAPA says your salary as a psychiatrist in the UK is not comparable to what you get here. But the luckiest thing that happened to us was the Ghana College. I was the chairman and vice chairman of the West African College of Physicians. That was a very, very difficult exam that a lot of our candidates were afraid of. So they rather go abroad and specialize rather than do the West Africa. But the Ghana College, as it came in, it was our own. So we knew how to handle it. And luckily for us, we were supported by American and Dental Council. We said, hey, look, please, the rotations, the House officers rotation, the 6 rotation, some of them who prefer to do psychiatry, give them the opportunity to do psychiatry. And invariably, all those who came in were interested in psychiatry.
I actually met a doctor who had come in from South Africa not too long ago, and talking to her about her interest in specialization, she said psychiatry, and I was just impressed that it was her first choice, her second choice, and her third choice. I think we've come a long way, Prof.
Oh, thank God.
Right. So for a break, when we come back, I'm going to be asking Prof about what everyone should know about mental health care and why this is a conversation you should be interested in, because some of the numbers that we've stumbled upon are very, very interesting. Because listen, if 2 out of 5 people have a mental health care issue, you cannot afford but to be interested in this conversation. When we come back, let's find out why every individual, every family, every company, and by extension, the whole nation should have a bigger interest in mental health care. Please don't go away.
There once was a man who had it all. He had skill, he had charisma. He was loved by all, but above all, he knew the importance of helping others, lifting others up. He knew the importance of giving other people an advantage so that they too would use that advantage to help others. All you need is that advantage that sets you apart from the rest. And when you discover that advantage, life's challenges don't seem so daunting anymore. That's where we come in. Enterprise, your advantage.
Central University, we are not just giving theoretical knowledge, but also real-life practical immersion. Our projects and research are targeted at solving real-life problems within our built and a natural environment. My name is Che Joseph Bafo, an architecture student. The faculty and facilities available to us make us industry ready. The project I'm working on recently won an award when my colleagues and I visited the Netherlands. Central University makes you industry ready.
Welcome back to Springboard, your virtual university, brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation and proudly sponsored by MTN, Pulse, Just Be, the Enterprise Group, Enterprise of Advantage, UMB Bank, celebrating 50 years in banking, and Central University, Ghana's premier private Christian university, with our partners in the media, being the multimedia group and the graphic business. My guest for today, in legends of our time in the engine room, the one and only Dr. J.B. Asare. Prof. Asare has been symptomatic with mental health over the years, and I told him when he came that over the years, if somebody did anything wrong, they will tell you that they are taking you to Prof. Asare, and they didn't even have to mention where they are taking you, and the name Asare was the other name for the Accra Psychiatric Hospital. In fact, the whole Ghana, if you had been taken anywhere near a psychiatric facility, you had been taken to Dr. Asare, and that is how the industry was perceived, or mental health was perceived. But he says that from the time when he came till now, there has been a lot of progress. And from the time when he was probably the only specialist at the psychiatric hospital in Accra, we now have across Ghana how many?
35, sorry.
35 specialists across Ghana. That ensures that at least we have, on average, 2 per region. And so that is a very positive sign. It says the HR side of things is where you've made the most progress. But it still thinks on the funding side, there is much more ground to be covered. In the second part of the discussion, Prof, I want us to look at the reality of mental health care and why we cannot ignore it. One report I read, I must say it's quite old, but considering the dearth of adequate research, let me use that one. They said 41% of people have one mental health care issue or another, with 19%, approximately 20%, having a case that is serious enough to require medical attention. So in my very simple mind, it means that if there are 5 people gathered in a room, 2 of them have an issue. And out of the 2, 1 has an issue that probably would require care. Right. Are these numbers a reflection of the reality on the ground?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Is it a widespread?
Yeah, there are a lot of people in Ghana who have a lot of mental health problems. This research that was done in 2013 was concerning distresses who were psychological distress. And out of those people, the 41% were those who have problems. And then 19%, 20%. And generally, who were 1 out of 4 people, you have somebody, if you took 4 people, 1 of them will have mental problem. And currently, the issue of depression is something that we have to take seriously. The whole world, WHO estimates that about 300 million people suffer from depression. And it's about 3.3% of the population. And this depression is a condition that leads...
Give me those numbers again.
Okay, 800,000 people suffer from...
800,000 globally?
Suicide, that is 300 million globally, the whole world. 300 million suffer from depression. 300 million? That's right.
Okay.
And which out of about 3.4 to 4% of the population. Yeah. And out of those people, about 800,000 will commit suicide. And suicide is quite preventable. Unfortunately, we don't pay much attention to people in distress, people who have problems.
What are the trigger points for this depression that you mentioned? You say that there's widespread mental health care issues, and you're saying that the one we should keep our eye on right now is depression, and is growing very much.
Yes,
with a percentage of the people in the depression category being suicidal.
Yes, right.
What triggers this depression that you mentioned? Help us to appreciate.
Okay. Psychosocial problems.
Like
not being able to get a job, economic situation, not able to get a job, feeling that people don't love them, or being rejected by society, or having nobody to take care of them, to help them when they're in trouble. They don't have people that they can discuss with. Mostly to do with rejection. And like particularly women also, where love, losses of middle ground, loss of objects, positions, losing their positions. But men, in general, about 3 times commit suicide than women.
Are these people in a particular age bracket, or it's widespread?
Oh, usually now it's widespread, but men of older age particular engagement, they commit suicide more than. But now, the worrying aspect of it is that we are seeing young people, even children, committing suicide because of social problems, lack of care, not getting what they want from their family members, rejection, having nobody to take care of them. So the economic situation that we're in Ghana now, we need to do something about it. Unemployment situation coming on, poverty, families unable to take care of their children. The inequalities in the society is becoming worrying. Whilst others are able to carry their children in Benz cars and big cars to school and places, there are some who have to walk. And then they come and ask Daddy, why is it that this boy comes with the father in a big car and I have to suffer like this?
These inequalities you mentioned persist globally, and they also have been there through time. I mean, I remember when I was in school, we walk home and we walk with pride. We'll be throwing our stones at our phone with my friends, and we never felt disadvantaged because somebody came, the timber merchants and the rich people in Takoradi, those who in the harbor will come with cash to drop their kids. We also felt cool. We'll go and play our football and then we'll go home blocking our phone and being very happy. What is it that is making the children of today feel that much pressure because of the inequality? Is it societal? Is it the media? Where does it come from?
Values have changed.
Values, okay.
Values have changed.
This,
Yes. When we were younger, I was brought up from the village. I accepted whatever I had and I was very happy with what I had. But now, there's strife. People, Sakawa coming in, young boys wanting to make money quick. You know, so that aspect of we in the past we were frowning on people who showed off, but now it got to a stage where everybody thinks that he also has to be somebody, you know, and the children are going that way. Why is it that I cannot do what Akwasi is doing? How is that? And that is affecting families and the children themselves, you know.
What is the role of faith in all this? What is the role of the church? What is the role of society? What's the role of the community? What are we doing that we should do differently? Or what are we doing that we should do more of to avoid what you seem to describe as a clear and present danger?
Well, I think we need to. Unfortunately, you go to church, they are preaching prosperity. Prosperity. Usually, what advice that I give to families that come with these problems, you need to sit the child down and talk to the child and say, your time will come. Wait. Just learn hard, do things right. Your time will come and you also succeed. But then most of the children now are impatient. They want to have immediate gratification. So it's up to us, those who are able to have more, to help those who are in trouble or those who cannot make it. We don't have many philanthropists around in Ghana. They have not many. Everybody is self-centered. The churches too, very few may probably want to give scholarships to the underprivileged in their churches, you know. So it comes to a situation where you are at your wit's end.
So you're saying that people feel alone because they do not have a safety net, societal safety net?
Yes.
And you're asking for more philanthropy? More
philanthropy to intervene, to help. This free education concept is very good, except that, as you know, the way it was being done is not as it should be. But in essence, The free education is very good, but it has been done in a way that people will not actually regret. So probably we may get there, but they have to be, in the past, those students who were good, the teachers will identify them, and then the government or other people will come in and support them. But those things are not more. Even if they are doing that, it will not be as it was before.
Beyond the issue of children and the tendency towards suicide, let's go to, you mentioned economic issues and you also mentioned relational issues.
Yeah.
It would seem that there's quite a number of issues that come to the mental health authority or to the attention of mental health care professionals that emanate from relationships gone bad. What would be your advice to people who are in love or marital relationships? What can they do differently? I mean, let's go to the root of where the problem is so they can help people in that space. What should they do differently?
You see, people are in a rush. At the moment, most of the young girls, as soon as they are getting to 30, they think they will not have anybody to marry. They don't actually look at who the person is. They look for money. Somebody who has a lot of wealth who can take care of them. That aspect of love, is usually relegated to the background. People are in a rush to get into a relationship.
Somebody said the love does not pay the bills. Prof, what will you tell them? He said the love cannot afford the school fees. What will you say to them?
Well, you have to pray about this and wait for your turn. What I tell them is, everybody in this world, we have a partner. The partner is somewhere that you have to look for. And you can do that by being modest and also showing good character and making yourself available at the right place.
So you think that those who go into relations based on financial considerations in the long run have the challenges?
They have challenges.
In your clinical practice, when they come to you, what are the issues that they bring?
Oh, mostly.
How does it manifest?
Infidelity. Our parents enjoyed polygamous life, but the current women that we have cannot share a man with another woman.
Would you recommend polygamy?
Well, if you can manage it, in the sense that you can make everybody happy, and those involved are also happy being in that relationship.
Are you saying that would have mental health care benefits?
Of course.
Really?
If you have a man who is not paying attention to you, he's moving here and there, doing here and there. If you allow the man to bring another person in, all of you agree that except that probably you'll be caught in your own belief systems or religious affairs, if that translations will not allow it. But then, to me, I feel the way things are going, it may come to a time where, to make people happy, you just have to allow some of these things to happen.
So, from where you sit as a professional, you think that if the man could come home and has options, he will stay at home?
Oh, definitely. If the man comes home, all of them, my father, for instance, I was raised from a polygamous life. Yes. He has timetable for them. They are all there. Even the woman buys cloth, Christmas, they all have the same time. When it's going out, they are all following, you see. And if the women are happy that that's the situation, and know that is for them, okay. But the type of women that I'm seeing coming to me now are those who are having problems because they can't share a man with another woman.
If your daughter came to you and she wanted to go into a polygamous marriage, would you allow it? Would you recommend it?
Well, if you'll be comfortable with it, why not?
Springboard, the virtual investing like guest for today. Prof. Asare, he's helped me to understand the antecedents of mental health care in Ghana. And this last point is one that I'm sure everyone is conversing about right now. Prof is saying that the people shouldn't rush into relationships. They should consider love and character rather than financial considerations only. And that was doing very well. So he added that maybe we should consider polygamy because that would let the man come home with options, and therefore the man will stay at home, and that would have less pressure on the woman. And those are the thoughts of Professor J.B. Asare. Prof, moving on from there, let's touch on economic considerations. So one will see, some would argue that, listen, we are all hustling. I mean, yes, I mean, there may be people who have prospered because they have resources, they have big businesses, but by and large, there's quite some economic challenges going around, not just in Ghana, but across the world.
Yeah.
So how do we position ourselves such that these challenges that we all see and widely feel will not push people to go into depression, commit suicide? What should people do? Should they join clubs? Should they join societies? How can the pressure be brought down so it doesn't lead to some of these outcomes? But let's wrap up with that.
Yeah. Firstly, we have to identify people who are in the situation, who are depressed or have come to their wits end. We need to see them, and they have to talk about it. A lot of people who are depressed, they show signs of wanting to commit suicide, except that we don't take cognizance of that. It's very important that such people should be closer to counselors, people who matter, confidants, and they have to help them to be creative, to help them to establish themselves jobs-wise, and also be able to look for agencies, areas that will give them some support and solace. Now, it's becoming difficult to get a white-collar job. I hear on the radio and TV about some entrepreneurs who are teaching some skills, small skills, rearing of animals, snails, those things, which some people are not aware of. If some of us could sponsor people to go and learn some handiworks or some of these things, that they can come and start and be patient for the business to grow. It's likely that they can be self-sufficient rather than waiting, doing nothing, and hoping that you'll get a job that is going to pay you well. I think that era is going. People should start trying to do something for themselves that will create some money, some wealth for themselves.
It is interesting that a discussion about mental health care ends up on entrepreneurship. Let me give you my thoughts, my learnings from your submissions, and I'm going to come back to you for your closing thoughts. So you start with the inception about coming back to Ghana at a time when psychiatry was at the lowest ebb, and literally in the hospital where you were probably the only specialist there at the time. You also
there were some, but not many.
There were, but
not
right.
many.
So you also talk about the fact that it coincided with a period when there was a lot of psychiatric issues because of the revolution and also the returnees. There were probably 1 million or so coming from Nigeria at the time, with all kinds of displacement issues. And so you had 2,000 patients in the hospital and not enough resource, not enough food to feed them, and patients were dying until Chairman Bested, and then a committee was formed and changes began. You mentioned modernization, and you say you renovated a ward, a model female ward, to show how it could be done. And it was fine, so you commissioned it, and then when the cameras came there, people said you were crazy because those facilities were not even available at Colin.
Yes.
The fourth was about misunderstanding. You say people don't understand mental health care. It really is about people being happy, enjoying life, and relating well with other people.
Yeah.
And as soon as people lack self-esteem and feel that they don't belong, that is what the trigger is, and it begins from there.
Yeah.
The fifth point you did is about the negative focus. You say it's steeped in tradition and folklore. So people erroneously believe that everyone with a mental health care issue is either being punished by their ancestors, or is under a curse, or has done something very, very wrong. The sixth point is about stigma. You see, not only are patients stigmatized, even healthcare practitioners are also stigmatized. And they refer to you as being mental health care practitioners. So you yourself are crazy. The seventh point is that today you look back and you think we've come a long way, even though there still are gaps in the mental health care system, like the fund that is empty. You look at the fact that we've made progress. Then the eighth point is about human resources. See, we've built on our human resource base. Now we have about 35 specialists in the country. That's a plus for all of us. Then your ninth point is about it being widespread mental health care issues. You say globally 1 out of every 4 people have a mental health care issue. And you say depression is particularly worrying, with about 300 million people suffering. It's about 3.4% of the population. And quite a substantial number of them are suicidal. And that's something that we should keep our eye on. Your 10th point is about the triggers. You say it's caused by psychosocial problems like unemployment, feeling unloved, feeling rejected by society, and loneliness. And among women, very often relationship and love issues tend to be prevalent. Yes. But your caution was that men are 3 times more suicidal than women. Yes. That's a very, very interesting statistic. Your 11th point, I asked you, why is it that some time ago these inequalities that you mentioned were there, and yet this time is much more of an issue, and you say our values have changed. And that previously, in your time, you go to the farm, you grew up in the village, it was not a big issue. But today's child feels under pressure because there is comparison, and there's also a desire to get results faster. And when those results don't come, then they become suicidal. The 12th point is that you are saying that patience is key, and it helps defeat the pressure of immediate gratification. And that when patients come to you with their families, you often advise them to take their time, and their turn will come. The 13th point is about relationships. You say people should not rush into relationships based on love, based on money alone. They should look at love and character, and when that is absent, they would have problems in the long run. And your recommendation, among others, is polygamy. That one I've written it. The 14th one is that you say they should find confidants and people that they can open up to and get help, rather than keep quiet and suffer alone. And you say they should also sometimes consider joining groups so that they can have a sense of community. Your final and 15th point is that in the absence of white-collar jobs, people should not feel a sense of pressure because they can't find work to do. They should consider some of these apprenticeships and some of these opportunities around. And if somebody can sponsor them to go and learn a trade and do something to earn income with their own hands, so that the pressure goes down and people don't kill themselves. Beautiful time, Prof. Beautiful. Let me say thank you to you, Professor Asare. Today was just about celebrating your contribution to mental health care and how far we've come as a nation. Next week we'll get a practitioner who is also a patient to talk about the 2 sides of it. And you don't want to miss next week, because we are devoting 2 whole sessions to mental health care and helping us to understand that it's a part of our lives, and therefore we shouldn't see it as dangerous or as terminal, like abodamfo. No, it is part of our lives. Prof, let me end with the last minute of this show. Asking for your opinion. I mean, we've interviewed companies that say they have a resident psychologist that supports their staff, because it's more than just an individual issue, it's a company issue. What do you think of companies that have provided a full-time retainer psychiatrist or psychologist for their staff? What would you say about that?
Oh, that's a big progress. But hitherto, they will want a report from you about the patient you've seen. Once you bring mental condition or you label, they say you are dismissed. Fortunately, now the Mental Health Act takes care of such cases. You cannot dismiss somebody at your place of work because on the grounds of mental illness. So for a long time, we didn't have psychologists happiness. During my time, Dr. Araba Safari Day of Blessed Memory and Pastor Dankwa, I consulted them to see whether you can get positions for psychologists in the psychiatric hospitals. And that was long not coming, how to get their positions and all that. But luckily now we are seeing most of them, and then also the psychologists going to industries is much more rewarding, but they'll pay them more than in the psychiatric hospital.
Here at Springboard, we've had the privilege of working with a wonderful team of psychologists from the Ghana Psychological Association, the President ABC, Joanna, and a number of them, and they've been very phenomenal in helping us. Of course, I can't end the show without thanking them for their contribution. Going forward, I am very confident that the story of mental health care will be even more beautiful than it has been. But I want to thank you and celebrate your contribution to mental health care in Ghana. And on behalf of the nation, the continent, your patients, families of people who have gone through mental health care issues, I want to say a big thank you to you, Prof. Asare, for availing yourself, and we celebrate you here at Springboard as a legend of our time.
Let me also thank Dr. Akwesi. He was actually my son. I brought him to take over. I trained him to become a fellow. Akwesi has maintained a lawyer friend, and he has done a lot after I left the system. He has kept the system going. But that's what I wanted. I made sure that I put people in places that will continue with the work when I wasn't there. And Akwesi has done so much. And the current figures that I have are all coming from the Mental Health Authority, because they are now current with what is happening in the system. I'm now an old man, staying in my corner there, doing my private small practice, but still, by God's grace.
At Peace B Clinic.
At Peace B Clinic.
Tell you one day I can visit you at Peace B and chat a bit more with you. But thank you for celebrating Prof. Akwesi. He's somebody that we know very well here at Springboard, and somebody that we truly appreciate. And it's always beautiful when you do a great job and you have your son, in quotes, succeeding you and doing an even greater job because you laid a good foundation. So we thank you very much, sir. And we celebrate you, sir. Good evening. So for all bright Bunny Ben, so I know you're listening and you're enjoying this, and you sent me a message to say this is really good. Thank you for your contribution to mental health care as well as psychologist. Right, so this has been Albert Ocran on behalf of Team Springboard saying thank you to you all for joining us, and on behalf of our partners, MTN Pulse, Enterprise Group, UMB Bank, and Central University, and our media partners, the Multimedia Group and the Graphic Business. God bless you, and God bless you.